During South by Southwest in the TechTainment Lounge, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Adam Curry. Adam's known for being a VJ on early MTV. He registered the MTV.com domain name. He went on to be a new media pioneer. He even created podcasting. He sold his companies for hundreds of millions of dollars. He makes his home here in Austin, Texas. I got to talk to him. Let's check it out.
So see the music you want to see!
Is music around. There's also a mega load of international guests dropping by tonight.
Valley for an event that will go down in video history.
Adam Curry is one of the guys that invented podcasting. And he has a podcast called The Daily Source. Let me go ahead and subscribe to that.
Really happy to be here at TechTainment during South by 2013. My guest is Adam Curry. Thank you very much for coming by our TechTainment Lounge.
And, my pleasure. I mean, you've got lamb meatballs, you've got champagne, you've got pretty people, interesting technology, so happy to be here.
And so, Adam, you spend a bit of time in Austin. I know you of course, spend time in LA. What's the connection between LA and Austin that you have?
The connection between LA and Austin is that I ran away from LA and I now live in Austin. It was, well, if I go back a little bit further, after I sold my company in 1999, I moved back to Europe where I grew up and spent time in Amsterdam, Antwerp, London for about 5 years. Then started another company in San Francisco after we brought podcasting to the world, and spent 4 or 5 years doing that, and I just got a little bored of doing it, so I operationally left the company, went to live in LA for a while, which I'd never done, because I'd always been in New York, and did an RV tour of the country really? 2 years ago in the summer, and I had a friend who I'd known for many, many years who said, come to Austin, come to Austin. I'm like, no, we're driving around Texas, we're not going to Texas. And he was very persistent, and so we visited, and we moved here 6 weeks after we visited. That's how immediately I was like, okay, Austin, where have you been all my life?
Yeah. So there are some things about Austin that really captured you. So of course, there's a great music scene here.
Yes.
So was it the music, or is there something more to it than that?
Well, there's a no douchebag policy in Austin that I like, and if you are a douchebag, we put you out in Steiner Ranch and we put a big fence around you. Not everyone appreciates that joke. It was, you know, what I like about Austin is that immediately I felt here, and it really is kind of a no douchebag policy. If you know how to do something, you can really do okay here, and people will support you, and particularly in the arts. If you don't have it, you're not going to make it. You know, and you look at LA, where you can live in LA for 7 years and do nothing, and then wake up one day and like, I'm still here. You know, how did I do it? And you've gone nowhere. And this is kind of a survive mentality. And Austin is also very, you know, it's very unique in the United States. And I've been to every state in the Union. I've seen a lot. It's very, very unique in just the culture, the vibe of the people. We're all very polite. Of course, we're armed, so you know, like, hey, you know, if you cut me off, I'll shoot you. But at the same time, there's an equal amount of, you know, Democrats as Republicans. You can kind of do your own thing. There's a supportive atmosphere. People are very, you know, like, let's collaborate and do something, see if we can get a spark going. I like that a lot. There's one downside to that. There is this thing that I've noticed where people will stop at a certain point and say, oh, it's Austin. Like, what do you mean? Well, we're not going to like go that extra 2 miles because it's Austin, you know, that's no. So that doesn't cut it with me, and hopefully I can influence that a little bit. But I think it's really the collaborative atmosphere. People are nice. I grew up in a very, you know, you found out you're my age. People were polite back in the day.
Yeah, right.
So, and you know, people, your neighbors know who you are. It's just nice. It's having lived all over the world, this is kind of the America I like to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I moved to Austin 5 years ago from Milwaukee, and
Gotcha.
and came down here to defrost a little bit.
I was going to say, a little warmer here for you.
And also, I just every time that I would come to Austin to do business and then I would leave, I would feel sad that I wasn't in Austin.
Right on.
And it's the only place in the world where it was like, you know, it's a place that I really miss when I'm not there.
Right.
And so making this this has been my home base for 5 years, and then I can travel wherever it is that I need to go and do that stuff, and then come home to Austin.
Also, that I've noticed, you know, like you're so in the middle. It's like 2.5 hours that way, 2.5 hours that way.
Right.
It's like perfect, and we got a great airport. After I sold my company, I learned how to fly airplanes and helicopters, and so I became this like aviation nut for a while, where you know the air travel is very important to me. It's like, where can I go? What can I see?
We even have live bands at the airport.
I know, isn't that great?
Like,
after you get through security.
After you get through security, it's like, oh, there's live music that's going on.
What's that when you go up there, you turn left? It's the what's the name of that place? I can't come up with it. Yes, we do.
Where the stage is at.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, we both should know what it is because there's always bands playing up there.
Right.
So can you tell me a bit about, I mean, you're of course always going to be known for work that you did on MTV. Mm-hmm. MTV was early on, and somehow you decided that MTV.com was something that might have some importance. Did you actually register the MTV domain name?
Oh yeah. So I've always been kind of a tinkerer, you know, geek, kind of building things. That's how I got into radio, by building a transmitter. That started first. The transmitter came before I started to go into radio, and I really accidentally fell into television. But I was at MTV in 1987. I had a Mac Plus, and I was on CompuServe and America Online, and which I think was Vienna Online at the time. It wasn't even America Online. And I kept hearing about this thing called the internet, and it was like all the cool kids were there. It was really hard to get on because you needed to do a PPP account or slip, or you had to like log in and then start something up and reverse log in, and there's no World Wide Web. And it turned out that's what the audience was. It was all college kids who had mainframe access, Unix boxes, and they were saying something very different than what the music department was thinking we should play. So I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And then I learned about Gopher, which is before the web, is kind of a text-based hyperlinking menuing system.
I always got lost inside of there, like where I was at.
It was not really for the visual.
Yes, exactly.
It's like,
wow, I haven't talked to somebody in a long time that knew anything about Gopher.
So I set up my own Gopher, and it's funny because University of Minnesota contacted me and said, you can't do that. You need to pay us a $5,000 license because you're using this commercially. I'm like, I'm not using this commercially. Well, you work at MTV, you're commercial. This is how bad it was back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
We were going to ruin the internet. And I said, well, I don't have $5,000 to pay a license, but how about if I wear your T-shirt on MTV? And so I actually have a contract where that's a video. It's on YouTube. You can find it where I'm wearing the Gopher T-shirt on the MTV, and that was the fee for the license. So I was just tinkering around, and a guy at a company called Digex, which was one of the first starting hosting companies, said, hey man, we should set you up with a server, and you should register a domain name. Okay, how about MTV.com? It's like, let's check. Yeah, it's available. So wow, register that. That's great. And I went to the powers that be at MTV and said, look, I'm doing this thing. I'm registering MTV.com. They said, no, don't worry. You with your internet, that's fine. We got the AOL keyword, so we're all cool. And then I got an email from a guy in Illinois who said, hey, try out this HTTP daemon that I have, because I built this thing called Mosaic. That was Mark Andreessen.
Sure.
And from that moment, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? And we have graphics coming in, it's black and white, and then it progressively turns into color. And it was taking like 2 minutes to see an image, but you could click on that, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes so much sense. And there was a guy I knew at Sun Microsystems, and I'm literally talking 89, using the PCM codec. He said, watch this. And he streamed a piece of audio from San Francisco. I was living in New Jersey. I had a 56K frame relay connection. No dial-up for me, my brother. And I was like, and it came in, and I could receive this audio that he was streaming, and it's very hard for people to understand how amazing this was at that time. It's like, what? And now it's like, we don't think twice. And this is before Rob Glazer with Progressive Networks, which later became Real and all that stuff. Like, this is broadcasting, I gotta be here. And I literally quit MTV On Air in '93 and started my company, not knowing what I was gonna do. The weird thing is that I quit on a Friday, conveniently. On Saturday, I got a knock on the door and MTV sued me for the domain name. Like, if you just asked me, I would have given it to you, but you know, they were really, so I countersued them and we just went on, and we eventually settled out of court. So I was able to start my first company and kind of evolve that into a very large internet advertising services company. So I built Budweiser.com, PlanetReebok.com, Continental Airlines, and we did the first ticketing online. Tampax.com, the website you'll visit more than once a month. I mean, we did all of this stuff and had a blast, and you know, took it public in '96 for a humongous $15 million raise, which at the time, wow, you know, and now that's a 15. That's like angel round. What are you talking about? And then around '99, I saw kind of what was happening with my partner. And, you know, it's like, wow, man. You know, I don't know if we're gonna be able to charge companies, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for maintenance. And we decided to sell to another publicly listed company. And to this day, that company is actually still public and profitable. And everyone was saying, oh, you know, no, man, you could, $2 billion market cap, you hang in there. I'm like, nah. And I think it was Silicon Alley Reporter. Remember that was a magazine? They had my partner and I with dunce caps like this, like idiots selling too soon. 2 months later, the bubble blew up. And, and so that's when I thought I would retire. It was a stupid idea.
So you've seen this tremendous change in the way that, really, I guess, content can be delivered and is delivered.
Yeah.
What do you see with the content creation? Is it in a funk, or is it in a whole new renaissance for it, or
well,
how do you see that?
Okay, so there's two things. One is I've been around enough. I've seen the cycles go enough times that I think that, you know, when you centralize services on the internet like Facebook, that's a bug, and the network eventually will route around it and break that up. And we've seen this cycle go, you know, GeoCities. You know, we can go back as far as you want. You know, it's centralized, decentralized, centralized, decentralized. And the problem is that people are, entrepreneurs are afraid, and also I think undercapitalized, to really create the decentralized applications and services that people really want and ask them to pay for it. Very early on, and I'm part to blame for this, very early on we got into this, oh, advertising will take care of it.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you that I don't believe that anymore. It can be done, but it takes so much effort and so much traffic and so much marketing that it's pretty much what we already have. It's called mainstream, and I got a little bummed out by seeing that happen. Particularly after, you know, podcasting was kind of meant to be the decentralized version of broadcasting, but advertising didn't change along with the idea. So what I've worked on for the past 6 years is I call it the value for value model, where if you ask your audience to support you, and it's a big hurdle. It's a big hurdle to say, would you please send me money for what I'm doing for you? Everything that you've learned as a child growing up, like, it feels like begging. But once you realize that it's not, that it's a reversal of the model, it's really amazing what can happen.
Well, is something like Kickstarter in that same kind of
Definitely
model?
part of it,
Yeah.
Totally a part of it. Not appropriate for all types of media. Certainly not serialized, something that comes back all the time.
Yeah.
But certainly for movies, television, or documentaries, let's call them, but movies particularly, there's tons of examples of audio. But also now we're getting to electronics, where it's so easy to have something fabricated that, you know, today we're still like, oh, Apple, please make me the fantastic iPhone. I can't wait till it comes out. It won't be too long before a group of people can get together and say, here's the phone I want. We're going to go have that built by someone. Unfortunately, that'll still be China, but okay, let's say that maybe we get some fab capability in America. That'd be nice. And we do a Kickstarter because there's a lot of people who also want this. And then we will see that when you know that you have that power, big companies are going to be running for the hills. It's going to be I can't wait. This is the apocalypse I really want to see happen. And maybe we'll even figure out that we can elect leaders we really want. You know, gee, wouldn't that be a concept if we put our brains to it? So this is really happening, and we're still maybe 10, 20 years out from people really, really understanding it. But I've seen, No Agenda is the podcast that I started 6 years ago with John C. Dvorak. 2 families now exist off of this show, just by creating a great product that people want and asking them to support it, and that really works. But I saw a young woman, or not younger than I woman, who worked at NPR doing the Washington beat for 12 years. She got so tired of the politics of reporting in DC, she decided to leave NPR, did a Kickstarter. The podcast is called Decode DC. She raised her, I think she was looking for $75,000, raised twice that, and she'll do it again in a year. And and so the days of being super millionaire, I think, in media may be gone, but just getting by, totally.
So something for like a podcast, so something like a reoccurring show. Yeah. You actually can get money for that through something like Kickstarter. So you don't have to come up with some other kind of model for doing that.
No, you don't have to. And it's really liberating, because the minute you are only beholden to your audience, because I've worked in commercial media where the advertisers do determine some parts of what you can and can't do, or you put filters in place because you can't say certain things because that may make your advertisers angry. And it's a model, but it's not really necessary anymore. There's enough reach, enough people are connected that it can be done. And it takes only a relatively small amount of people. Amanda Palmer raised $1.2 million with her 25,000 fans for her next album and her tour. It doesn't take that many people anymore. It's really a reversal. So I'm seeing, I was just talking to Joel from Rockify, I'm saying, it's like, make sure that you can enable people to create their own miniature Rockifys with their own, so that's part of, you can call it channelization, there's a million different ways you can look at it, but that's what it's going to be, and people will want to have their own mini Facebook that they control, and the news feed is, within their community's control and not someone else. You can set your clock by it. It always happens.
So in continuing the thought on content creation, so somebody like Amanda Palmer is creating a wide variety of content.
Sure.
And when she goes out and does a fundraising like that, she gets super creative with what she offers. She's not just offering like a CD or a ticket to her show. Is that a trend that you see happening in more areas? Like how about somebody that's like a book publisher?
Well, this is very interesting. This is the next frontier, and I'm very, very interested in publishing. I do another podcast called The Big Book Show, which the only thing I get is free books. And I have a friend in Los Angeles who's been an agent for 20 years, and he literally books New York Times bestsellers for me to interview. And I've been doing it in video. I'm going to change that to audio only because I think that's the audio may have more reach. But if you look at bigbookshow.com, you can see it's everything from Nora Ephron, this is like some serious, well-known writers, to a person who's just done an ebook on Amazon, self-published, and that range is pretty wide. Every single one of them has no clue what they're selling, who they're selling to, how much they're selling, where it's going, what they're making, what they should be making. Their publishers don't know. The only person who really knows is Amazon. Amazon knows. They don't even know if men or women are buying their books. So the publishing industry is upside down right now. No one knows what to do. And this is going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. It's clear that it's ebooks that is driving all the sales. There's no doubt about it, although I personally like physical books much better. But there's some obvious ease of use. And it's it's way up in the air right now. Do I think that someone can write a book in a Kickstarter? Absolutely. Or do I think that you can publish a book and say, did you like it, send me some money? Absolutely. Will that work? Absolutely. Will it work for everybody? No. Only people who did something that an audience likes. And that's kind of the fairest form. You know, if you did a book and no one liked it, or it was, okay, then people may not support it.
So is it a good time to be an author right now? Or
well, I think it's a good time.
Or is it a scary time to be an author? Like Barnes & Noble is like having, struggling with their bricks and mortar stores, and Amazon's controlling lots of things.
Well, I think if you want to be an author and are going to sell on Amazon for your, and give them 30%, I think that's very tough right now. I think if you have several thousand people who are going to read and buy, but you also leave it open and say, what value did this really give? You may be surprised that some people will say, oh, here's $100 instead of the biggest problem I think it's a mistake, and it really started with iTunes, where we devalued the artistic and creative output to 99 cents. And as much as I value Steve Jobs and met him and was wowed by him, I hated that part, where this song is worth 99 cents. Bull crap. I may think that song is worth $99. And because I love it so much, I may feel like I owe that to the artist. But it was so, and same with apps, the same thing. What is this 99 cents? I know what goes into making an app. Whoa, So I think that is not the way to go. I personally believe that if you leave it open and let people contribute what they think it's worth to them, you'll get a much higher number. When it comes to timing, the world is in a financial shutdown. We have 50+ unemployment across Europe. We have, believe me, much higher unemployment than the 7.7% that is reported in the United States. This is the best time for art. The art gets better, the songs get better, the hookers get better looking. I mean, this is a fantastic time to be alive and in the arts. The drugs will also get better. We've been through this cycle. I haven't, because I'm not old enough, but it happens. This is a great time to be alive, because we all have connectivity, but we're all broke. This is fantastic, really, when you think about it.
So I was in India last month and just amazed with the connectivity that they have through their mobile devices.
Right.
They never put the infrastructure in for like all the landlines and all of that.
All mobile.
And the vast majority of families in India have at least one mobile device. And they're using it for making little micro payments. They're using it for being able to communicate with the outside world. They're using it for their entertainment for their family. It seems like through technology, that there's a potential for a flattening of content delivery worldwide. And can that have an impact on education then? Can education be delivered in
it better. I sure hope so. I mean, just the educational book market itself is such an incredible scam. I mean, I don't know if you have kids, but oh my God, this book is only $500, but you got to have this edition, and next year that one's not the right way. It's like, it's an incredible scam. That is already taking place. The publishers, that's going to go away. But I think kind of the whole university system itself has turned into a bit of a money-grabbing scam. So, but that's not really something I follow that much. But I can see that all of that has to change. And we see big-name universities putting their courses out online for free. But is it going to change stuff? Yeah, it has to.
So as you look forward here in 2013, and all these things are going on with technology, and your background of really understanding it, what are the things that you're really passionate about working on?
Well, my personal passion is helping people live in less fear than the media wants to put you into. That's kind of what I do with my podcast, No Agenda. Because the mainstream has really gone to such a low level that it really is just meant to scare you into buying something for some reason. So getting people away from mainstream, I think, is very important. There's so much, as I said earlier, there's so much opportunity for people to be creative and find ways to make a living. And it doesn't just have to be art, you know, but it can be writing, it can be all different forms of using the network to create some kind of value. That's really all we have on Earth is, you know, the commerce we have is, here's my value, and maybe I have a chicken who makes eggs, and you're going to give me something back. But you know, obviously in our economy we need to have more. We've got 3D printers coming up very quickly, still probably 5-10 years away from really being very, very useful and affordable, but Lord knows what we're going to be able to create when we really can use that technology, and what someone with just some dedication and passion and a good idea can do, and exchange that for other things.
And are you doing that through your online, like podcasts, and like how are you reaching out to people to?
All I do is I do No Agenda twice a week, and it's noagendashow.com, and have a listen. You know, not for everybody, but you know, it takes a while to get deprogrammed to get into it. You know, I have a 22-year-old daughter, so I just kind of sit back and watch, and I like hanging out with her friends when, you know, they still let me in. And I love to see how no one has a career, everyone's doing a gig, everyone's, you know, jumping from one thing to the other. It's beautiful to see. But the days of, you know, the promise we had of the gold watch and you retire when you're 65, you know, we never got to it. But these kids, it's like they're in a totally different universe that still has, you know, has yet to unfold. And I love seeing what's happening and what's going on. But it will eventually come back to very small local communities, smaller groups of people. It's not going to be from the masses anymore, and it's also not important.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for coming on to our TechTainment Lounge during
Thanks for having
Delphi.
me.
Really appreciate you doing that. It was very interesting getting to know you.
All right, likewise.